Our chair for this year is the former state assembly member, Jeff Miller. Jeff also served as mayor of the city of Corona and on the city council, prior to that on the Parks Commission. What I like about Jeff is the fact that he's a small business owner. He's been successful in his insurance practice for a number of years. And when he went to the state of California, he worked both sides of the aisle, and he looked at what was best for the business sectors. And he is someone that we can trust to give us as much information as possible and weed through things. He works side by side with our consultant, who is Jeff Gibson, and Jeff Miller will properly introduce Jeff Gibson in a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our chair for our legislative action, Mr. Jeff Miller. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Bobby. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Great. So we've got a jam-packed day. Let's get right into it. Before I get into today's sponsor, I just wanted to point out that the bills are starting to come through Sacramento right now. One of the biggest ones that we've been following is AB 1400, which is single payer healthcare, which would essentially eliminate all private healthcare, Medicare, Medi-Cal, and put everybody into a state-run government program. I know hopefully I don't steal too much of Jeff's thunder, but this bill last week passed out of Assembly Appropriations Committee on an 11-3 party line vote without any discussion. And this bill, put it in perspective, the governor's budget is about $263 billion. The estimated costs on this bill is close to $400 billion. So this is something we're going to watch very closely, and it has up until the end of January to pass out of the Assembly to the Senate. But as you've been following this for many months, at the end of the day, that never really matters, because when we get into September, they can do a process called gut and amend, and we'll have more to talk about that as we go. So anyways, keep an eye on AB 1400. It's going to be really important that our representatives hear from you on that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So today's event, let's get right into it. Today's event is sponsored by, oh my gosh, my friends. I spent more money there than I have McDonald's. Awards and Specialties. They're an award and recognition store that sells your basic sports trophies to complete custom awards for any occasion. This includes medals, ribbons, lapel pins, corporate plaques, and more. They also specialize in custom framing and matting, as well as all sorts of promotional items. Thank you, Awards and Specialties. Is Jeff on I don't know if Jeff's on the line or not, but thank you. You guys do great work and have been a great community partner for many, many years. So with that, as a reminder, there's a little button on the bottom, the chat button. If you want to submit a question to the chamber host, just click on the chat button and send it, and we'll answer the question at the appropriate time. Now, I would like to introduce our Vice President of Communications and Events Extraordinaire, Stephanie Shapiro.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Jeff, for that great introduction and the explanation on the single-payer healthcare. Definitely a lot of things to be on the lookout for, and we appreciate you keeping an eye out for our businesses. I'm going to keep it brief today. I just have a few upcoming events to share with you. The first one is coming up this Friday. It's our first Good Morning Corona of 2022, and we will be hosting our keynote speaker, District Attorney Mike Hestrin for Riverside County. We are so overjoyed and pleased to report that we are expecting 150 people at this meeting. So if you don't yet have your tickets, just go ahead and click on the link in the chat that Anthony just posted, or contact me and we'll make sure to get you on the list. We are having this event sponsored by Velvet, Off the Charts, Medcare Farms, and Vulcan Materials Company. We also have additional sponsorship opportunities and exhibitor tables available for this month and throughout the rest of this year. So hope to see you there. Make sure it's marked on your calendars. Next up, we have 2 newly scheduled seminars for our employers. On February 9th, we will be hosting a representative from the District Attorney's Office here at our chamber offices. They're going to be going over the Fair Chance Act. This is something that anybody who employs or is hiring a new person needs to be kept abreast on, because it's about criminal background checks and things that you can and cannot ask potential new employees. So it's very critical. This is new legislation that has recently been put into practice. So want to make sure to educate our members on that and the business community at large. And then the following week on February 17th, we are hosting a webinar with employment attorney Usama Koff. If you've come to these the last few years, this is the same attorney that has been keeping us up to date on the new things that come out each year, new laws that employers need to be aware of, the big ones that will get you in trouble or get you fined or whatnot. So this is a webinar, so you can watch it from the comfort of your office or your home. And we hope to see you at one or both of these. They are free to attend, and we are hosting in partnership with the city of Corona. So thank you. Any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And once again, thank you to everybody that was able to come on Thursday last week. I told you before, it's my favorite event. That still holds true, but it's my favorite because of all of you. You guys bring the energy to the room, and I'm just excited for a great year. Now I'd like to turn it over to our membership development coordinator, Robert Giannis, to tell you guys some things about chamber membership.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you all for being on this call today. And as you all know, all of you here on the call today, membership is the key to the chamber here, and without you, there is no chamber. So I'd like to urge you to talk to your vendors, different businesses that you talk to, and tell them the importance, especially this call, I believe is one of our most important things that we do here at the chamber, as far as advocating for our businesses, letting them know all the different bills that could potentially be detrimental to their business. So again, my name is Robert Giannis. I'm your membership development coordinator here at the Corona Chamber. If you have any questions or any referrals for me, please contact me. You could put my information in the chat. Thank you very much. And I'd like to turn it over to our marketing and sponsorship specialist, Tammy Harwick.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Besides the wonderful event coming up, Good Morning Corona, this Friday, we also have our golf tournament coming up in May, and we do have specials that have been extended for this Friday. So if you have a foursome or you have the opportunity to come out and be one of our sponsors, definitely get a hold of us right away. We also have great opportunities for you to be able to market your business in our, I don't think you can see it, our Corona Business newspaper. Send your articles, your ads. If you have flyers that you want to get to us to promote an event that you're going to be having, we would love to help you grow your business and get people coming to your event. We also have every Monday our e-blast that goes through email. If you're not a subscriber for that, definitely subscribe. It's free to subscribe, but it's a great way to promote your business as well. And we look forward to helping you and your business grow. Thank you.
Jeff, you're on.
Okay, so thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Stephanie. Great job. As you know, I like to jump off the agenda a little bit. I just want to, I like pointing out some of the nonprofits in town that jump on our calls, and I can see our folks from Peppermint Ridge are on the call. Welcome. Obviously, if anybody in the community is looking for an organization to make a tax donation to, if they're able, Peppermint Ridge is one of the great nonprofits in our community. So thank you guys for joining. And with that, I'll introduce our CEO, Bobby Spiegel, who's going to give us a quick update on March Air Force Base.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jeff. And I really appreciate all of you being on. And I'm not going to take a lot of time, but there'll be a slide up next that will show what has just been released. March Air Reserve Base is one of our biggest economic engines here in the southern region of California. And there's constantly all the different things that are going on with people trying to scale back on the military. And it's called base realignment and closures. It's the BRAC. By having this type of a system that's now coming to March Airfield, we feel very strong that March will avoid being on a BRAC list. We don't want to be too sure of everything, but we are so excited about this. This will bring thousands of jobs to our area here, and it's going to be great to have that housed right here in Riverside County. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Bobby. Okay, let's get into the meat of the matter. And I'd like to introduce Jeff Gibson, our legislative advocate. And Jeff keeps up with all the events that are happening regionally, statewide, federally. He's been involved in endangered and species, the 91 freeway, the 15 freeway, housing development projects, and was the author of Jessica's Law back in 2006. He owns Occidental Communications Group, and I'd like to introduce Jeff Gibson. Oh,
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, here I am. Hey, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. So let's just jump in. We're going to be dealing with two pieces of legislation. They are the most expensive pieces of legislation, according to the legislative analysts, that have ever been considered by the state government. There is no financing plan that would enable the state or has enabled another state to consider doing this at this scale. And so essentially it is single payer healthcare. It is not called universal healthcare any longer, because after the worldwide experience of a government provided healthcare, it's clear that the term universal is not accurate. The legislative analyst has said that it's not accurate to call it that. So it is single payer healthcare. The two bills are Assembly Constitutional Amendment 11, which would be appearing on the November ballot if passed. The governor has said that he is interested in seeing legislation like this, not specifically this piece of legislation, but legislation like this on the November ballot. What it would do is it would double the tax load on every taxpayer in the state of California. So let me repeat that. It would double the tax load on almost every tax category other than property tax that every single taxpayer pays in the state of California. So we would pay as a net right now, the average tax load is about 8.2% per taxpayer. And that would be going for the median household to about 18.9% overnight. And because it would be a constitutional amendment, it would be enacted as soon as the initiative passed and the election was certified. So about November 15th of this year, going forward. It's $160 to $170 billion worth of new revenue and across the board tax hikes. The revenue amount would be roughly the state budget of 2019. So if you think just 3 years ago, that's not very long ago. Since 2019, the size of the state government has doubled. And it would double again. So we would be leaving a 5-year period in the state of California in which for 2 years, at least 40%, 40 to 100% of our business activity at the consumer level was shut down or monitored, or and we're not arguing with it, we're just describing, and in which time the state government grew in size by 300%. So that would be a substantially different California going forward. And if it passes the state legislature, it would be put on the November ballot. Obviously, you're going to be hearing a lot about that. So I would be getting into the tax categories. I would be getting into all of that, but it's easy to sum up by saying literally every category of tax would be going up in pursuit of doubling the size of state tax collections. So that's the first part. The second part is the policy piece, which is AB 1400, which renames the Medi-Cal system, in which, as we've discussed before, by their own admission, on a state budget of $236 billion last year, the Medi-Cal system lost to fraud, and this is their number, over $30 billion to fraud. So what this would do is it renames the Medi-Cal and Medicare system. So for Medi-Cal, you have a number of seniors that fall into that. A number of folks with disabilities or other challenges fall into Medi-Cal. So it's not unusual to find folks during your normal daily life, professional people, that somehow receive a Medi-Cal assistance in some way, which is a government assistance in paying for their health care. The Medicaid or Medicare system is for indigent care. So that's IEHP. What this would do would require every single person on this phone call, every single person in the state, to essentially participate in an IEHP type system. According to the Legislative Analyst's office, the smallest amount that it would cost the state would be $250 billion a year, which is a doubling of the state budget. So independent of anything else that's going on in the state budget, it would specifically be $250 billion. So we would go from 263, which is the amount that the governor turned in for this budget, to $514 billion at a minimum. And they said a more realistic figure is closer to $400 billion. So let me explain to you the Legislative Analyst's office real quick and the role that they have. The Legislative Analyst's office is appointed by the Speaker and by the Senate President Pro Tem. They are known to be extremely accurate, and they help the legislature establish what is known as the legislative history of all of the legislation that is considered. What that helps you do as a business is, if you have a problem with a regulation and say that the bill passed by Jeff Miller in 2010 or 2011 said this, the state regulation that was given by the administration, so it's a separate wing of the government, said something different, you can go back in the legislative history and say the legislative analyst said this is what the intent was. The legislature voted for that. So it's a very professional, very nonpartisan agency. But since 1958, the legislative analyst has been, or since its invention in the early 60s, other than for 2 years, the legislative analyst office has been run by Democrat leaders in the legislature. So almost predating everybody on the phone call, this has been a office that you could take their dollars and their cents and their analysis to the bank. And courts have recognized it. Financial markets have recognized it, but they have been appointed by the Democrat leaders of the state. So this is not a partisan attack in any way on any piece of legislation. The Legislative Analyst's office at a more realistic figure for AB 1400 is $350 to $400 billion. So that would create a state budget of approximately $700 billion when you figure in the fraud amount required. That fraud goes straight across. So if you have a $90 billion program called Medicare, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and you have out of that 1/3 being lost to fraud, and you quintuple the size of that to $400 billion, or you quadruple the size of that to $400 billion, and you have 1/3 in fraud, that would be $120 billion worth of fraud. As just one of the entities. In this bill, AB 1400, there are no protections against fraud other than those that are in place right now. Jeff is exactly correct that the bill last year was held up in the Assembly Appropriations Committee for obviously its cost to government. To give you an idea, when you're going through, so there's two types of committees: the policy committee and the appropriations committee. And the policy committees, of which there are over a dozen in each house, ask the question, what should the state do? And then you have to go to a second type of committee called the appropriations committee, saying, how do we pay for it? And within the Assembly Appropriations Committee, within the State Senate Appropriations Committee process, any bill that costs the state of California more than $500,000 gets held for additional analysis. There's ongoing debates. Jeff has been a part of this. He can speak to it. There's a lot of negotiation. It is a serious and negative day when your bill goes on to gets held in the Appropriations Committee, and you get involved in protracted debate with the appropriation staff, as the system is designed to justify your state spending. So as when Assemblyman Miller just lined out, that on an 11-3 vote without debate, and again, without debate, the Assembly Appropriations Committee moved a bill to essentially double the size of state government, if not more than 3 times the size of state government. And the analysis of the bill said that the state does not have any clear path to pay for this year one or going forward. This is what we deal with every day in California, in the California State Legislature for you, on a number of different issues. That the legislature is so used to seeing the legislative analyst office say things like, there is no clear picture of how to justify this cost or even pay for this cost. There are 2 states that have provided at various different times single-payer healthcare, Vermont and Hawaii. They are very, very small states. In fact, both have, if you added both together, they would barely equal the population of Riverside County. And I believe, I know for a fact that they wouldn't equal even Orange County's population size. And both have had to scale back very quickly their promise of single-payer healthcare because of the tremendous cost, and found that the level of care dropped precipitously. So both of these are ongoing issues. This is obviously an ongoing debate. We've had this debate in this committee for the chamber going back to Obamacare, which was supposed to take out, if you remember, was supposed to provide a $700 billion a year savings year one by eliminating private insurer healthcare, et cetera. Since its passage in 2009, the portion of the American economy that is now dominated by healthcare has doubled. So it's become twice as expensive in terms of the economy's ability to pay for healthcare, while at the same time not providing additional access, and et cetera, because obviously if it were doing its job, there would not be an interest on one side of the aisle here in this state to provide additional healthcare. So if everybody was getting healthcare under the current system, there wouldn't be any debate over that. So since there's debate, we are going to be bringing it to you. But this is highly concerning. The governor has said that he would sign a piece of legislation that would provide single-payer health care to every single person in this state, irregardless of their residency status, irregardless of whatever status they have as a person, if they could demonstrate that they have a take-home income of the median income or under. So his opening offer in the negotiations with the legislature is that he would be willing to take this on for 18.5 million of our friends, neighbors, and fellow state residents. And so you can see that this is definitely going to be something that you're probably going to be seeing on your ballot. This is definitely something that we're going to be dealing with. So happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jeff. Anthony, are there any questions?
There are no questions on this particular matter. However, we do have one question regarding the governor's recent announcement that he will once again require businesses to provide up to 2 weeks of additional paid time for COVID-related absences. Is there any status or update on that effort?
So what the governor agreed to on your behalf as your representative with members of the state legislature. So I don't know if anybody got a call. I know I didn't. Was that the state had agreed to a potential framework for continuing the sick care policy, the sick leave policies under COVID that would be providing 2 weeks. Now, this requires legislation, and it would very likely require a 2/3 vote of the legislature so that it would get urgency. And so that's going through the process. We will keep you updated on it. But yes, it was just announced this week.
Thank you, Jeff. And we did have another question come in
Sure.
regarding AB 1400. If it is rejected, does the government then turn around and increase the tax on something else?
There are a number of different taxes. There are two. So there are two. Let me say it this way: there's a lot of taxes that are going to be on this ballot in November. So they're coming after Prop 13 in 2 to 3 different ways, and that would immediately. So if you remember last time, there was split roll, which we're going to split off these commercial properties from these residential properties, and the governor had said that I will support that move to go to and I will never ask again. We will never be coming back to you again. Well, that was in 2020, 2022, of course. So we have now passed through never and come back around. And so in 2022, they're going to say, okay, so you didn't like split roll. How about if we just raised everybody's taxes? Would you go for that? And so that's on the ballot. It's very possible that ACA 11 will be on the ballot. And of course, as you have identified out there in Corona Chamberland, wait, what happens if the ballot initiative passes under the promise of this is going to provide universal single payer healthcare, but AB 1400 doesn't pass? Does the state budget now still stand at $480 billion? And the answer would be yes. And there you go. So yes. So if AB 1400 doesn't pass and the governor's healthcare plan passes, which means that 1 out of every 2 people would qualify for single payer healthcare, the cost on that would be about $180 billion. And that $180 billion would fit right about the revenue number that is supposed to be coming out of ACA 11. So now this also doesn't account for 1 million taxpayers having left the state of California since March 13th, 2020. So, and it doesn't take into account that Facebook has redomiciled in Austin, Texas, with the largest commercial lease in U.S. history. They took 45 floors of a huge building, and they are re-domiciling. So, and they pay a net tax rate of 0 to the state of California, but they pay a huge amount, about 5% of the state budget comes from Facebook and related companies' capital gains taxes. So if those folks start re-domiciling outside the state of California, then because they're now being taxed 18% as opposed to 8%, then this is going to be a part of a story that we have been tracking with you for quite a long time. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
thank you.
Anthony, anything else in the queue?
There are no further questions.
Okay. I just want to make a comment about this bill. This is not new. We've seen this year after year after year. Our position has always been very clear that the chamber opposes single-payer healthcare, universal healthcare. So regardless of your position or your political affiliation or ever, from the chamber's perspective, we take positions on bills that we think drastically impact our business community. And this is one of them. And you'll be hearing more about it. We're just getting started. Our next briefing is on February 2nd. It'll be right after the hearing on the assembly floor. And so I'm looking forward to commenting and seeing how it goes on by the end of January. With that, I would like to remind everybody that they can reach out to our representatives, Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes and Senator Richard Roth. And their contact information is on the screen. And feel free to reach out to them on any issue that you wish. Before we end today's program, I just want to thank and welcome a few folks that are on the call. Annette Dumont from the Riverside County Office of Education. Hello, Annette. Brad West from the Office of Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes. Welcome, Brad. And I saw we had Monica Green on, the president of Norco College, but I think she may have jumped off. And my favorite mayor and my favorite council member, Jason Scott, is on the call from the city, retired from the city of Corona. And thanks, Jason, for taking the time to stay participating in these issues. And I think lastly, correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, if I miss anybody, from the fine city of Wildemar, Kimberly Davidson.
I believe that you got them all here, Jeff. So
Okay.
we appreciate
okay.
it. And those that are actual business owners and individuals that work hard day in and day out, we absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. Look forward to seeing as many people as possible. If you've not registered yet, please do so for this Friday. Our district attorney is going to be speaking. And it's a great opportunity to get some updates on what is going on. Just want to do a little plug real quick, selfishly, on the following month, we have America's Sheriff Chad Bianco as our speaker on February 18th. So a lot of good things happening. This Friday is the most important one. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeff and Jeff.
Thank you, Bobby. You know, I just, again, going off the agenda here real quick. With the sheriff and the DA coming, one of the issues we wanted to bring light to this year are the laws and the situation with smash and grabs. I know I had a client last week that somebody threw a hammer through the window in Dos Lagos and stole a bunch of stuff. And so one of the things that we're going to be looking at this year is how the laws potentially can be changed to slow down these smash and grab situations. And obviously with our DA and our sheriff coming to our Good Morning Coronas, it gives us a great opportunity to maybe ask them some questions about smash and grab. With that, I'd like to thank Awards and Specialties again. for being our sponsor. They're more than just a trophy shop. You can learn more at awardsandspecialties.net. And if you'd like to sponsor a future briefing, please contact the chamber. And please be sure to join us next week, February 2nd, as we'll be bringing more updates to the issues that we talked about today and anything additional. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Jeff and everyone.